I will never forget the first time I saw her. That afternoon, the sky was stained with a metallic gray, as if a storm were waiting for the right signal to break over the town. I was walking along the dusty road that bordered the old valley, carrying a sack of tools that weighed more than my own tired body. My thoughts were as gray as the sky, and my life back then was a thin thread, barely holding between poverty and resignation. Then I heard a soft sound, almost like a giant sigh, that made the air around me tremble. I stopped. I felt the ground shake under my worn-out bootsa's slow, steady pulse, like the heartbeat of something buried deep in the earth. At first, I thought it was distant thunder, until something moved between the trees. She emerged from the thicket like a dream that had gotten trapped in the real world. A gigantic woman, about 30 feet tall, with a beauty so radiant it clashed violently against the gloomy sky. Her skin seemed to reflect what little daylight remained, and her eyes were huge and deep, like calm lakes hiding unfathomable secrets. She wore a blue dress that fell in soft waves, moving as if it breathed, revealing the powerful shape of her figure without showing anything inappropriate. Her dark hair flowed in long strands, almost like threads of shadow dancing with the wind. I froze. The sack of tools fell to the ground with a dull thud. She tilted her head toward me, as if examining a tiny, fragile creature. But instead of fear, I felt a sudden warmth spreading through my chest, a mix of awe, unease, and a strange sense of familiarity. "Are you hurt?" she asked, with a voice soft and deep, like an echo brushing the mountains. I didn't know how, but her tone wrapped around me, making me feel as if she were speaking directly to my emotions, not just my ears. I'm fine," I managed to say, though my legs were trembling. She smiled, and that smile was like a break in the storm. A warm, unexpected light that seemed impossible in a being so immense. She lowered her hand, a gigantic, beautiful, perfectly proportioned hand, like a living sculpture. She set it on the ground beside me like a gentle platform, offering safety instead of threat. "You look tired," she said, "and sad." My lips moved before my mind gave permission. I am. I don't understand why I confessed something so personal. But there was something in her presence, something that cut through my defenses as if she had always known my sorrows. I was a poor man with nothing but hard work and endless nights of worry. No one had bothered to notice my sadness in years, but she did. "My name is Lyra," she said slowly, "and I've been watching you for a long time." Her words shook me. "Watching me?" "Yes," she replied, with a strange gleam in her eyes. "There is something in you, something I needed to understand." I took a step back, feeling my breath hitch. It was impossible. Why would someone like Haran, impossible being, a colossal and mysterious woman, be interested in me? The wind blew, lifting dust around my feet as she kept looking at me with a mix of tenderness and something else I couldn't decipher. "Who are you really?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she leaned a bit closer, and her eyes glowed with a sadness I didn't expect. "I'm someone who wishes to help you," she murmured. "But I cannot do it unless you accept a bond. A deep bond. A bond that will change your destiny." My heart pounded violently against my chest. I could feel truth in her words, but also a dark weight behind them. "At what cost?" I asked. Lyra smiled again, but this time her smile carried a melancholic edge. Her voice dropped to a whisper that made the leaves tremble. "That you must not know yet." The breeze stopped. The world seemed to hold its breath, and I, without knowing it, was about to accept the mystery that would change everything. Since that first encounter, my mind hadn't been able to rest. I spent the night tossing and turning in my small room, listening to the wind slipping through the wooden cracks, imagining that at any moment Lyra would appear at the window, her gigantic face glowing like a living moon. I didn't know whether I should feel fear, hope, or both things intertwined. The next morning, as I walked toward my job at the mill, the whole landscape felt different. Every shadow between the trees seemed to hide Lyra's enormous silhouette. Every vibration in the ground made me stop, expecting her to rise once again from the vegetation like a secret too enormous for the human world. And just as the sun began to climb, my intuition was confirmed. I felt the ground pulsing broad, deep heartbeat. I slowly turned around, holding my breath. There she was, emerging between two hills, as if the world itself had been built as a stage for her entrance. The golden morning light illuminated her imposing figure. She wore a white dress this time, soft and lightly shimmering, moving like clouds drifting across her skin. She carried a calm, almost divine elegance, yet the way she gently tilted her head toward me revealed humanity emotion. "I thought you wouldn't come," I said, not realizing I said it out loud. "I knew you were waiting for me," she replied with a serenity that made my anxiety dissolve. "Our bond has already begun to form." My chest tightened. "Lyra, I don't understand what this bond means." She knelt down, and the movement lifted a wave of warm air that forced me to shield my face for a moment. When I opened my eyes, her face was close to mine, immense. Beautiful, her dark eyes fixed on me as if searching for answers inside my thoughts. "The bond is an interconnection," she explained. "It's not something you can see, but you can feel it. Your life, your emotions, your strength. Everything begins to resonate with me. And what belongs to me also begins to touch your essence." A shiver ran through me, not of fear, but of strange understanding. It was as if my heartbeat synchronized with the trembling earth beneath her knees, as if my thoughts sharpened just by being so close to her. "But why me?" I asked. "I'm just an ordinary man. I have nothing." Lyra turned her gaze to the horizon, as if the sky answered her in silence. "Your tears speak louder than your poverty," she said softly. "I've seen your struggle, your quiet kindness, the way you keep going, even when the world turns away from you. That is rare, even among us. Us." I repeated, my voice caught between curiosity and astonishment. Lyra smiled, but not out of joy. It was a smile that held an ancient weight. "I'm not the only one of my kind, but I am the only one who chose to break the rules." A heavy silence settled between us. The birds stopped singing, and the wind stilled, as if all of nature was listening. "What rules?" I finally asked. She lowered one giant hand and placed it on the ground very close to me. She didn't touch my body, but she was so near I could feel her warmth wrapping me like a colossal blanket. "We're not supposed to form bonds with humans," she admitted in a faint voice. "We're not supposed to watch them closely, or feel empathy for their pain, much less," her voice cracked slightly, "much less choose one." My throat went dry. "Choose." Lyra looked at me again, and this time there was no doubt in her eyes, only pure intensity, an emotional glow that nearly made me step back. "I chose you," she said without hesitation. It felt as if my soul had been shaken from the inside. I didn't know what to say. My lips trembled before I could react. "But why? What does that mean?" She tilted her face slightly. The sunlight hit her massive cheek, revealing a vulnerability I never imagined could exist in a being so colossal. "It means that I will protect you," she explained. "That I will help you. That I will share a part of my energy with you. But it also means that what you receive must be paid for. Always." A cold wave ran down my arms. "Lyra, I want to know the cost. I need to know it." She closed her eyes for a moment, as if the question itself were a slow wound. "Not yet," she whispered. "If you knew, you would try to run. And if you ran, I would lose you." A gentle breeze brushed against my clothes, but it wasn't from the wind. It came from her immense, warm, almost protective breath. "Lyra, what are you asking of me?" I asked, barely audible. She leaned a bit closer, bringing her enormous eyes level with mine. And there, up close, I saw a glimmer I had never noticed before, a deep fear, almost human. "I'm asking you to trust me," she said. And although part of me wanted to step back, another part, stronger, stranger, wanted to move toward her. During the days that followed, my life became a burning secret I carried with me everywhere. While I worked at the mill, while I walked through the market, even while I slept. I felt the soft but constant presence of the bond Lyra said connected us. It was like a pulse behind my thoughts, a warm whisper that followed me, even when she wasn't physically there. But when she did appear, when her gigantic figure crossed the horizon like a goddess descending to break my routine of dust and hunger, everything else stopped existing. That afternoon, I found her at the overlook above the valley, a place I sometimes visited when I wanted to feel that the world was a little bigger than my problems. But this time, the world truly felt enormous, because there was Lyra sitting on a massive rock, her legs extended, the wind playing with her light dress. Her eyes landed on me the moment I arrived, as if she had been waiting for me forever. "You're tired," she said in a deep, gentle voice. "Your body is beginning to react." I froze. React to what? She lowered her gaze as if calculating how much she could tell me without breaking what she called trust. "The bond is beginning to take root inside you," she said. "It gives you strength where there was once weakness, light where there was exhaustion, but it requires adaptation." A shiver crawled up my arms. Since the morning, I had felt something strange. My steps were firmer, my breathing deeper, as if a thread of unknown energy were moving through my veins. But I didn't want to admit it until I heard it from her. "Lyra, I need to know more," I said, as I took a few steps forward. "I can't keep walking blind." Her eyes so large, they could hold the reflection of the entire valley. Teamed, I know. She extended her giant hand open, inviting me closer. It wasn't a gesture of dominance, but of command. If she wanted me to feel that her size was not a threat, but a protection. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, then again, until I stood just a few inches from the palm of her hand. I could feel the heat radiating from Ida deep, almost spiritual warmth. "Come," she said, "sit with me. I'll show you something." I hesitated. Not because I feared her, but because I feared myself. The way my heart abandoned all logic whenever I looked at her. Finally, I climbed onto her hand. It was like stepping onto warm, solid ground with the faint pulse beneath the skin, reminding me she wasn't a fantasy. She was a living, colossal being. Lyra lifted me gently until I was close to her face. From there, her expression was immense and vulnerable at the same time. "You think I'm powerful," she said, "but my kind lives under an ancient pact, a pact that forbids us from interfering with humans. Our existence must remain hidden. And above all, we must not create bonds then." "Why did you do it?" I asked. She took a breath, and the wind it created wrapped around me like a warm breeze carrying secrets. "Because I saw you," she replied. "I saw your quiet life, your unnoticed kindness, your sadness without witnesses, and your ability to keep going even when no one had ever chosen you before." Her words struck something deep inside me, something I had never dared to acknowledge. I had never been important to anyone, never been chosen, until now. "My species believes humans are fragile," she continued. "A bond could destroy them. Or destroy us. It changes us. It weakens us. It breaks the rules of our destiny. And me. What does it do to me?" I asked, my voice lower than I intended. Lyra raised her hand slightly, bringing me even closer to her enormous eyes. "The bond makes you stronger," she said, "but it also ties you to me. Your spirit begins to depend on mine. Your life becomes brighter, but also more vulnerable. If I fall, you fall too." The air thickened around me. It was as if an invisible veil had ripped apart, revealing the truth she had avoided from the beginning. "That is part of the cost," she confessed. My heart lurched. Part of the cost, which meant there was more. "Lyra," I murmured. "What else haven't you told me?" Her silence was painful, and her expression, filled with a fear I had never seen in her immense eyes, was worse than any answer. When she spoke, it was in a whisper so faint it felt like the world wasn't meant to hear it. "There is something deeper I must reveal to you. But if I say it now, you might hate me." My breath stopped. Lyra gently moved her giant finger closer to where I stood. She didn't touch me, but her presence felt like a caress of air. And I could not bear for you to hate me. I didn't know what to say. The bond vibrated inside my chest like trapped lightning, and for the first time, I felt something beyond energy. I felt destiny. That night, I could barely sleep. It wasn't just the weight of her words, but the strange feeling that the bond inside me had begun to beat with a rhythm of its own. Sometimes it sped up, sometimes it calmed, as if it were responding to emotions that weren't mine, or as if it were listening to thoughts my human mind couldn't yet understand. At dawn, I felt something different, an impulse, a silent call pulling from some invisible corner of my chest. It wasn't painful, but it was urgent, as if a deep voice without sound were whispering my name. It didn't take long to understand that it came from her. Lyra, I found her in the highest clearing of the forest, where the trees leaned inward, as if guarding a centuries-old secret. Lyra stood facing the horizon with her arms crossed over her chest. Her massive figure, silhouetted against the rising sun, looked like a living statue, a guardian of forgotten worlds. She wore an emerald green dress that moved with the wind like a vertical river. When she heard my steps, she slowly turned her head. There was a new sadness in her eyes. "You came," she said. "I had no choice," I answered. "I felt I had to come." Lyra nodded, as if she had been expecting exactly that response. The bond is growing. That means I can no longer hide what remains to be said. The air turned colder, despite the rising sun. "Lyra, I don't want any more half-truths," I said. "If there's something I need to know, tell me." She lowered herself until she was level with me, placing one of her giant hands on the ground. The luminous lines that ran across her skin from wrist to shoulder were brighter than ever, as if her energy had been disturbed. "The reason our species cannot create bonds," she said in a low voice, "is not just the emotional risk, it's because the bond consumes." A chill ran down my spine. Consumes. What? She closed her eyes for a few seconds before answering. "It consumes lifespan." My breath caught. "Mine or yours?" "Both," she said, opening her eyes with a painful gleam. When two beings so different connect, the energy needs balance. You gain strength, clarity, and resilience. But that energy comes from me. And I, in return, absorb part of your human vulnerability. It's a slow exchange, invisible, and very hard to stop once it begins. I stepped back, not from fear of her, but from fear of what it meant. "So, you're telling me this bond is wearing us down?" "No," she said firmly. "It doesn't wear you down. It strengthens you. You're stronger than you were before, aren't you? You've felt it." I nodded, because it was true. Every day since I met her, my body felt like it was adapting, rising. But that only made the other half of the exchange hurt more. "And you?" I asked, my voice unsteady. Lyra held my gaze, not looking away. "It weakens me." A dry wind blew through the trees. The birds stopped singing. It was as if the entire forest understood the gravity of her confession. "How? How much does it affect you?" I managed to ask. She took a breath, and her voice came out softer. "Every day I'm near you, my energy spreads a little thinner. It doesn't kill me, not quickly. But it makes me more vulnerable, more human." The word human left her lips like a mix of blessing and curse. "Lyra, why didn't you tell me earlier?" I asked. "Because if I told you, you would leave," she replied, not hiding the emotion in her voice. "And I didn't want to lose you." I had never seen such a gigantic being look so fragile. Her hands trembled almost imperceptibly, but enough for me to notice. It was like watching a mountain shudder. "But there's still more," she said, and her expression sent ice through my veins. "The worst part of the bond is that, if it reaches its final stage, your life will be tied to mine forever. If I fall, you fall. If I disappear, you do too." My voice broke. "Then, the cost you mentioned from the beginning was this." "Not completely," she whispered. "There is a deeper price. One, I've been protecting you from all this time. One, my species would punish if they discovered. She stepped back not to distance herself from me, but to show me something. Her skin began to emit a faint glow, like embers waking. It was beautiful, but terrifying. What I feel for you, Lyra said, is forbidden, and the bond is responding to it. My heart pounded like a frantic drum. What does that mean? It meant it was no longer just about protection or energy. It meant her kind might come for her. Or for me. Lyra took a deep breath, and the movement shook the entire clearing. Her voice trembled when she spoke. It means we're both in danger. A deep silence fell between us, a silence that felt like the edge of an impending destiny. The sky turned dark earlier than it should have, as if a gigantic cloud had decided to descend directly over the forest. The air vibrated with a tension that didn't come from wind or storm, but from something far older. I felt the bond inside me tremble, like a rope pulled to its limit. Lyra sensed it at the same time. Her enormous eyes, once full of sadness, now shone with alertness. "They're coming," she said. Her voice had a weight that made me shiver. I took one step, then another, feeling the world shrink around us, as if the entire forest wanted to hide. "Who's coming?" I asked, though the answer was already forming in my mind. "My kind," Lyra replied. "They shouldn't be here yet. The bond exposed us too early." The ground shook. Not like when she walked, but deeper, more rhythmic. Like multiple giant footsteps, advancing in unison, my legs weakened. Lyra bent toward me as if to protect me with her shadow. "I won't let them touch you," she said with fierce determination. "Lyra, I don't want you getting hurt because of me." She smiled with heartbreaking tenderness. "You're not my burden. You're my choice." The tremors grew stronger. Between the trees, I saw lights. Not torches, not human technology. Luminous lines like the ones that glowed on Lyra's skin when she weakened, but these were brighter, steadier. 3 giant figures emerged from the forest. Their silhouettes were colossal, as tall as Lyra, but their movements were more rigid, more ceremonial. Their long garments seemed to float, and their faces bore cold, almost marble-like expressions. The one in front spoke with a voice that seemed to fold through the air. "Lyra, you were warned, yet you formed a forbidden bond." Lyra stepped forward, shielding me with her enormous body. I won't deny it. Another figure moved closer, their eyes fixed on me, as if they could pierce through my soul. I didn't feel malice, but an oppressive authority of certainty that I was a mistake that needed correcting. "The human is linked," the second figure said. "The bond has begun to consume, and it will continue consuming unless we sever it," the third added. "You leaped over the destiny of your kind, Lyra. You've endangered our existence." Lyra took a deep breath, her inner light flickering. "We are not in danger. We're simply refusing the coldness of your rules. He is not a threat." The central figure extended her hand, and a glow emerged from her palm like a sharp thread of light. "It isn't the human that threatens us. It's what is awakening in you." Lyra stepped back, not in fear, but in pain. It was clear now, what her kind called awakening wasn't strength. It was the sign that the bond was changing her, making her more human, weakening her in their eyes. "If you continue," said the central figure, "his life will fully bind to yours. And if you fall, he will fall. That breaks the laws of balance." Lyra lowered her gaze for a moment. Then, with tremendous effort, she lifted it with courage. "Balance is not living without feeling," she said. "Balance can also be choice." The central figure turned her light toward me. "Human, cast off the bond. Step back from this path. Free yourself from her." The bond vibrated violently in my chest, as if it wanted to rip itself out, but I couldn't. "I don't want to break it," I said. My voice shook, but it was clear. "What I have now, I've never had before. A life that matters, a life that feels alive." The 3 figures looked at one another. A thick silence swept through the forest. Lyra leaned toward me, her enormous face filled with an emotion beyond any word. You're choosing a dangerous destiny. Then I'll face it with you, I said. Lyra closed her eyes. When she opened them, something had changed. Her skin glowed brighter, as if my declaration had strengthened the bond instead of weakening it. The giant figures stepped back, not in defeat, but in acknowledgement. The central one spoke one last time. Then let destiny take its course. But the price will remain the same. They vanished into the light, leaving the forest in immense silence. Lyra knelt, exhausted, but when she looked at me, her smile was a mix of relief and fear. I still don't know where this bond will lead us, she said. But you're no longer alone. And I. Neither. I approached her hand. I touched it for the first time. Her skin was warm, alive. And in that touch, I felt something more than energy. I felt a future uncertain, but ours. The clearing filled with soft light, and for the first time since I had met her, the mystery didn't scare me. It called to me, and I answered. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to the channel and leave your like. It helps us continue bringing you more enchanting stories like this to brighten your day. And tell us in the comments which city in the world you're listening from. See you next time.